Hi, I'm Ken Smith, Director of Health Products with Assurity. Today is a special day. August 6th, 30 years ago, was the first meeting introducing critical illness protection. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that this day would have the impact on my life and my career that it's had. And it's also had the impact on millions of people around the world. The man we're going to talk to today is the man responsible for critical illness protection. Marius Barnard was born the son of missionary parents in South Africa, and Marius has had three very distinct and very impactful careers. First as a doctor, as part of the team of surgeons who did the first successful human heart transplant. He taught pediatric surgery behind the Iron Curtain when it was illegal to do it. He was a member of parliament in South Africa, a small party fighting against apartheid, and then, most importantly to me and millions of people around the world, the father of critical illness insurance. Marius, thank you. This is so exciting to be able to do this today on exactly the 30th anniversary of critical illness.
Pleasure. It's a great pleasure for me and having to talk to you. And it's actually wonderful that this interview is basically at 4 p.m. our time, which was exactly the same time as I went to an insurance company office to launch the first rare disease insurance policy. It was called rare disease those days. It wasn't critical illness when we started. It was called rare disease.
Now, Marius, whatever motivated you to start reaching out to insurance companies about the concept of critical illness protection?
You know, protection insurance is so very closely allied to medicine. I mean, all the kind of protection policy is being developed because something went wrong to a certain health. Life insurance policy pays out on the diagnosis of a very bad medical condition called death, but it's a medical condition. Disability insurance is exactly the same. So as medicine progressed, and I was involved in very difficult developing of the kind of modern technology in medicine, the changes in the needs of the patients changed because our patients didn't die anymore, they lived. But they lived quite often under very trying conditions where they cannot work, a lot of medical expenses. And I saw that, first of all, a life insurance policy didn't help them because it only paid out not on death. It didn't pay out during the survival after a heart attack or a stroke or cancer 5, 6, 10, 12 years later. And it just became to me very vital that how can we help these people financially when they heard the worst thing they'll ever hear from the doctor. You've had a heart attack, your wife has got cancer, your daughter has a brain tumor. And so I became quite involved. I had no knowledge of insurance, but it became quite obvious to me that these people needed help. And so from somewhere I got the idea that to develop a policy that didn't pay out on death or disability, but on the diagnosis of a critical illness. It's so simple that it's laughable that it took me, a stupid man from Africa, to have started it. But it's so simple that you need money when your doctor tells you you've had a heart attack, you have to stop working, you've got a lot of expenses, you've got to go and retire, all these things that is associated with the diagnosis and treatment and survival, because people don't die anymore, they survive. That's where I developed it.
Marius, what was that first meeting like 30 years ago?
You know, let me tell you, I remember it vividly. I must turn on the video, but I won't. The first day they came to fetch me at my surgery in Johannesburg, and I went to this office of the Standard Life Insurance, and I arrived there. There wasn't a big crowd, and we started talking about the product. And we went very slowly, and we slowly started on it. But I don't think there were 20 people. And I presented my talk, and the people enjoyed it. But if you had told me it will develop the way it did in the big policy that we eventually had and all over the world and in millions being sold, I would say you're crazy. I never realized the impact. But that happens in time. The same thing with heart transplant. We never thought it was going to cause the sensational news it did all over the world. So yes, I remember it. It is fascinating. The first policy was called rare disease insurance. There were only 4 conditions covered: heart attack, stroke, cancer, and coronary artery bypass surgery. Why? Because I knew 80% of the claims would be for these 4 conditions. So, we immediately hit the cases, the conditions that was mostly diagnosed. Until today, it's correct. It's still today that this is the policy. It's now bigger, but it all since the inception, these are the major claims for critical illness.
Marius, what about amounts? What kind of amounts were the first policies?
It was an interesting product. It was 500,000 rand, which is, I don't have to work it out. It's about 500,000, about $50,000 plus or minus, and only half was paid out on the diagnosis. The other half carried on as a life insurance or an endowment. So it wasn't a 100% payment. It was that. But the policy then developed the conditions and the amount developed because of the demand of the agents and the clients. We didn't develop it further. When we developed the policy and brought it on the market, everybody said it's a rubbish, it won't work, it won't pay out. Strangely enough, it paid out so well that they had to break it eventually. And so the whole thing it was just a surprise of its success. So after about 2 years, we developed another 4 conditions, which was renal transplant, renal failure, transplantation, multiple sclerosis, and one other condition I can't remember. And it grew and grew, as you know. Today, it's a fantastic product, wonderful product.
Marius, can you talk a little bit about medical technology and medical advances and how that influenced critical illness protection?
Yes, I'm merely an ancient historical medical fossil. I qualified nearly 70 years ago. And when I started my medicine, basically the thing was antibiotics was then just the flavor of the month. But with heart attack and stroke and cancer, we could do very little. And as we developed, the people died then of the disease. Now they developed into the most unbelievable diagnostic methods, unbelievable medical treatment, and advances is unreal, and people survived and lived longer and longer and longer. So today, if you have one of these crippling diseases, your chance of living 5 years or longer is basically 100%.
Marius, one of the first times we met, you shared a story about one of your patients, the young mother who had been diagnosed with lung cancer, and the impact that had on you with moving toward critical illness.
Well, you've just got to see what these people go through. I mean, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. We operated on her, and she came to consult me, and 5 years later she came back to see me, and she was basically dying. She was gasping for breath. She was nearly skin and bone. And I asked her, why are you at my rooms? Why are you at home? She said she came from work. And she came from work because she had to earn money. And she died, and the life insurance policy paid out. But during that 3 years of struggling with killing disease, there was no financial support, and therefore it's very obvious. If you had a heart attack, would you rather if you have a heart attack, would you rather lose your house or your mortgage? All these things. It's so easy and plain that I don't understand why people can't understand it.
Marius, for the 100,000th time, would you talk to the advisors and the agents about why it's so important that they talk to their clients about critical illness protection?
Well, I'm known to say, don't sell critical illness insurance. Just tell your clients about it. They make up their own decision and discover that it's a wonderful thing. You needed, the big saying that we had is, you don't insure this because you're going to die, because you're going to live. After our treatment, you're going to live, but there is, for years, but there is a fantastic financial implication, and you actually die financially. You have a heart attack, will lose your business. A stroke will make you unable to take your children. I mean, the public understands the financial implication of these diseases. I don't know why advisors find it so difficult, but don't sell it, just tell everybody about it. Then you'll see, if you tell everybody about it, and it's what it stands for and its advantages, they will buy it.
Marius, at the Critical Illness Conference in Las Vegas last year, I happened to be sitting there at breakfast one morning with an underwriter from England, and he was sharing with me that they are actually selling critical illness insurance in Iran, of all places. And, my question to you is, did you ever think this would go all the way around the world like it has?
No, I never thought it would go out of Johannesburg. When we launched it, the other insurance companies were very critical. They said it's a gimmick, it won't pay, etc., etc., etc. But then the financial advisors went to their clients and talked to these things about the clients. I always say that I quite often sit at the airport and talk to people. They say, what do I do? And I talk about this insurance policy. And I say, this is a policy that pays out the diagnosis. And the answer is always the same. Why has nobody ever told me about it? Why has nobody ever told me? And I think that financial advisors owe their clients and the public the duty that they at least know about it. I have unbelievable belief that when we as doctors tell the person you've had a heart attack, stroke, or one of these other critical illnesses, at least they should have heard about this policy. They can refuse it, but everybody should know about
it. As you know well, one of the challenges with human nature is change comes slowly. And both of us have been very persistent about delivering the message over and over again. And sometimes it happens slowly, and then the process accelerates. The most important thing with this, I'd like to have you talk for a minute about the most important thing, and that's the claims and the difference it's made for people. And I know you've got some great stories to share related to the claims.
Well, it speaks for itself, unfortunately. If you have the problem, your house is being threatened, you can't pay your mortgage anymore, and you get a lump sum payment, as we say, would you rather lose your house or your mortgage? Well, the only problem, if you had a heart attack, will you either lose your house or your mortgage? The only policy that will ensure that you lose your mortgage is a critical illness policy. I've seen people lose houses. I've seen people have to take their children out of schools. I had to see people that committed suicide because during this illness, which is not pleasant, ask me, I know what's going on with cancer patients because I've got it myself. And they've got the financial worries on top of it. I still don't know why people have to be encouraged to sell critical illness policy. It's so unbelievably product that they should run out and talk to everybody about it.
One of the things I'll ask you, it's been a long time ago, but you shared a story with me. You had received a letter from a woman in England. She worked I think it was like a greengrocer. And I don't know if you remember that, what a difference that it made for her, that she was able to go to work. She was able to work part-time and enjoy her friends and her family after she was diagnosed with cancer.
Well, this is a story that's repeated. This poor old lady worked all her life in a greengrocer store, all her life. She didn't have enough money, but she had to work. She had a small little house with a mortgage. And some wonderful financial advisor advised her to buy a critical illness policy. Well, very soon afterwards, she developed cancer of the breast. It had a bad one. It was spread already. She had about 3-4 years to live. She had the operation expenses, but the critical illness policy paid out, and she could leave the mortgage and have that extra money, and she now could stay at home without working, spend quality time at home with her dog, with her friends, and this policy helped her in the last few years to have quality of life that she would never have had without this policy. She would have had to work with her dying body. It's actually pathetic that people don't talk about.
Marius, is there anything you'd like to add to the people that are viewing this?
You know, I haven't got the power and the strength anymore to convince people. The only thing I know is that, you know, I would like to tell advisors, if you don't tell your client about critical illness insurance, I'm not concerned because somebody else will, and you will lose the business. So why don't you go and do it yourself? You know, this policy is, as you know, have sold millions a year. It's an unbelievably successful policy. And more people are buying it, and more people get claims. And the story is a growing. This policy that everybody said is a joke, a gimmick, is today one of the major protection policies. And the protection means, and this is what I always say, protection insurance means to provide money when you need it most. When you need money most? When your doctor tells you you've had a heart attack and you can't work, your wife has a stroke, you have to go to her. So this is the reason why this product is so important.
Marius, there's a quote I'm thinking of from Gandhi, and he said, "In a gentle way, you can shake the world." Marius, you are one person who has shaken the world and made a difference in the lives of millions and millions of people. And I want to tell you, I appreciate what you've done with this product. I appreciate this being a special day.
All right, well, I don't think I'll be around for the next 10 years, but it was fantastic talking to you. And the greatest honor people can give me is to go out and sell critical illness policy, not just to listen to this talk and go and sleep on it, but to go out and actively talk to your clients. Don't sell it, talk to them. Talk to them, talk to them.
And I will tell everyone viewing this, if you really want to be inspired, go to Amazon and purchase a copy of Dr. Barnard's biography, Defining Moments.
It's done very well, actually. It's influenced many people's lives. I'm very, very grateful I wrote that book. It's really been, for me, the book's called Defining Moments, and it's actually been a defining moment in my life. That book has given me such a lot of pleasure and joy. And thank you very much for your kind words.
Great. Thanks, Marius.